Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of the fifth season of Next Generation's First Generation, a Star Trek The Next Generation watch-along podcast where, on the 30th anniversary of the release of each episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, we is myself, Patrick Belmore, and my co-host Sascha Shouties, review, or rather do a commentary for each episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. And today's episode is Silicon Avatar, the fourth episode of the fifth season. How you doing, Sascha?
I'm doing A-okay. I'm really looking forward to this one, mostly because this episode has flavors of Moby Dick in it.
It does indeed.
And it's not every day they bring a giant snowflake in as a reoccurring character. So I think it's kind of neat.
It's funny because this episode, and we'll come to it, but it pushes heavily against the people that had that knee-jerk reaction of really loving the movie First Contact, because that also had shades of Moby Dick.
Yes, it did. All right,
we will get to that when we get to that.
Mm-hmm. So what we'd like you to do is queue up your viewing device. We'll give you the countdown of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and play.
Now, this is an episode that I remember the beginning of from being 9 years old when it aired, but it's not an episode that I remembered a whole lot about the plot of, just this opening with the colonists getting attacked by the crystalline entity. And I think, Sascha, you were just looking at production notes. Are they in the same park that they typically film in when they do exterior stuff? Or
yes, I believe they do. I recognize the park. I actually didn't get the name of it. This is at the Golden Oak Ranch in Santa Clara Valley, north of Los Angeles.
And we know they love to when they get to be off the ship and be outside.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of blouse pants in this colony, and they've been here for a minute because Riker has made a relationship with somebody, and she's inviting him over for dinner, and he's pretty excited about that.
We also have this nesting instinct.
It's kind of nice that you actually see it's a healthy relationship. It's he's been there. They're talking. They're not falling all over him. In fact, he seems to be the one kind of following her lead. So, no, he asked her out. I take it back.
Yeah. Without the Enterprise actually there, it's more of a situation where colonists deal with starship commanders bringing them supplies all the time. It's not nearly as intimidating because they're not crew members on the ship. They can have this kind of casual back and forth and not feel like Riker's holding advantage over them or something.
Yeah. I really like this whole landscape, though. I kind of wish that they had more like construction rather than people in nice outfits moving crates.
Yeah. But this is mostly a bottle show, so the fact that it got a outdoor anything.
There it is, our favorite CGI object. We've seen this before.
This was spooky when I was a kid. And I love that they do this this blue lens cover, which is often used in cheap films to do day for night.
Mm-hmm. Now, I could be wrong. I believe that woman is her name Susan Diol, who is a stand-up comedian in Great Britain, actually. Wow! Hey, look at that! It's the credits. So, it's October 14th, 1991. If you were like me, you were prepping your box Android outfit, wrapping it with aluminum foil, and dryer vent ducts for arms, and you're practicing your beeble beep, beeble beep. Actually, my one of the memories I have of this episode, oddly, was I was watching this while I was getting my Halloween costume ready, because our school, about a week or so early before Halloween, we had a thing where all the kids could bring their costumes to school, and we'd parade around the tennis court and playground just to kind of look at everybody's outfit. So,
Yeah, we also did Halloween parades, which the problem with Halloween parades is that if you wear an unpopular costume, you will inevitably be bullied by the entire school. It happened to a kid who was at my school that wore a Where's Waldo costume at the height of Waldo's popularity, and got chased into a cloakroom and by a bunch of kids screaming, "I found Waldo."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I think with this episode, CGI, what are your thoughts about the crystalline entity? When you watched this as a kid, were you convinced that this was a real thing and it was happening?
No, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I understood that it was, that it was TV, and this is an appropriate use of CGI for 1991. You can make a snowflake that looks like a snowflake, and that's what the crystalline entity is.
While watching this as a kid, I had really big problems with the scene, and I still do now. There's a huge planet, and the crystalline entity doesn't really discriminate on its target. It just kind of eats everything on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's doing the sweep to absorb anything living that's only maybe about 10 or 15 feet wide. And it's got to do the whole planet with this tiny beam. It would take it years and years and years to get everybody. And then you have these two who just are two victims, Carmen and some senior citizen, get absorbed in the slowest rolling train wreck possible. It's like, you guys couldn't have rolled. It's like, oh no, I've fallen. There's a car coming. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I hate to argue with you. I think that the crystalline entity is bigger than 15 feet wide. I think that may be
no. It's beam.
Oh,
it's the beam
yeah.
where it's scanning the planet. I'm just thinking to myself, it would take it forever to eat everything on the planet.
Yeah, you would have had to have just kind of old schooled it and had like the screen grow white and then everything have disappeared, which would have been a cheaper effect to do if you had the right sound effect. It could have worked. Are you familiar with the character Galactus from Marvel Comics or the Fantastic Four?
No, I am not.
It's basically a human version of what the crystalline entity is. He's a big giant guy who goes from planet to planet and sucks all the energy out of the planets. And he's been declared a force of nature, not a sentient being by the people in that universe.
Was this in the Marvel universe?
Yes.
Okay, so something about the Marvel universe you need to know is that the lawyers declared all their characters non-human in order to avoid paying taxes on their marketing toys.
Huh.
So what happened was there was this loophole in toy import-export law where if you made human toys, you had to pay a higher tax on it, like a tariff. Mm-hmm. But if it was a non-human toy, you didn't have to pay as much. So they just kind of shot their own cannon in the foot in order to save a few bucks on merchandising. Oh, and Carmen, I meant to bring this up earlier. So, yeah, she was in this episode. She was also in a Voyager episode. I believe it was where she was the Vidian doctor. Who the female doctor who kind of hung out in the sick bay as a hologram while her real body was kind of in stasis.
Nice. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm still in a I'm still in the Vidian. They're still in the Vidian area of space on the show, so she will turn up.
Yeah.
I just watched the one where the doctor faked it, created a cold so that he could empathize with his patients.
My favorite one with the doctor is where he creates a family, and B'Elanna goes in there and makes everybody rebels. So like his children hang out with Klingon teenagers who want to do bloodletting ceremonies.
Now, this in itself could have been a good episode. Riker, Data, and the Doctor stuck on a burnt-out planet with their, however many colonists were left, with what comes up later, the idea that this only happened because Data was here.
Yeah, and I don't know if they go into it very much more in this episode. I haven't seen this episode in years. This is the first time I've watched it through. But that's a coincidence that Data is there and the entity is there, or then they have to ask, well, what happened to Lore? In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, wasn't Lore beamed into space in the last episode of the
last Crystal Identity episode. Okay. His last episode, he just took off from the planet where Dr. Sung was.
That's right.
So what's going to happen here is they're going to bring like the one scientist that's studying the crystal identity on board, which is a bad thing because since she's the one scientist studying it, she has complete carte blanche with this thing, and she is crazy, and just being in proximity to Data makes her more crazy. And what we're going to find out of that Data is we kind of knew that he had a record of all of the colonists on the planet that he and Lore were created on that killed everybody. It's not just that he has a record of these colonists, he has all of their memories and voices stored within him. And the scientist that's studying the crystal identity, her son was killed on that planet.
Actually,
and Data is able to mimic her son's voice and read letters that he wrote to his mom.
Yeah. This reminds me of a French village anthropology book. I'm going to have to look it up and bring it up to you in just a sec. So anyway, you have this book where it is a diary, more or less, of a whole bunch of villagers in France, and it chronicles an entire year. This is back in, I want to say, the 1500s or something like that. Anyway, I haven't seen it since college, but anyway, the idea is that everything's logged in this book, and people were using this book as a way to kind of do a snapshot in time of what's happening in this town. And I would see Data very much as the future equivalent of that, is that he has all the records of the colonists, all the voices of the colonists. He has the memory of their last moments. I'm surprised that Data's experiences weren't a greater study, to tell you the truth. Oh, another beautiful oil painting there. Look at that.
Well, not only a greater study for Starfleet, but a greater study for Data himself and his sentience. Because this could have been something Troy could have worked on with him, being like, okay, you got all these colonist memories in you. Who do you admire among them? And now take situations from your own life and look at how they would react to them, because that's what Data is going to do at the end of this.
Yes.
This scientist ends up purposely killing the crystal identity, and then asks Data if her son, who was killed by it, would be proud of her for having done this. And he's able to go, no, from what I understand, he would be sad.
Yeah, well, he doesn't.
Which is huge. Yeah, which is huge for Data to be able to find an emotion based around something and assign it, and that he's always had the ability to do that. And it just never occurred to him to do it. Now, maybe Troy doesn't know that he has all these colonists in him.
Maybe nobody knows because nobody asked.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Ellen Greer, our doctor, and she has had quite a freaking career in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and just tons of film, and tons of television, and also I think a smattering of theater too. So
And she looks a lot older than she is here. She's only in her very early 50s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was born in 41. How you have the doctor explaining all this to the crew, and they're just kind of patiently like, yes, we already know all these things, but okay. Oh, it's attacked 11 times. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but we've only seen it. We know about when it attacked the colony that Data and Lore were on, and then when Lore brought it back.
So you think she'd have a larger team? Like, I get that she's a specialist with the Federation, but if you have the crystalline entity attacking 11 times in Federation space, you think they'd do more than hire one vigilante doctor?
Yeah, it's very sketchy. And this seems to come up all the time. She's very similar to the lawyer admiral that they had on the Drumhead.
Oh yeah, she's kind of got that same affect where, like, it's happening this way, and I'm going to convince you whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Gates McFadden's wig game is a little bit off in this one.
Now, does she has a lot of wigs, or a few wigs, or all the wigs?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm so bad I can't tell when someone's wearing a wig.
Well, that's a positive, I think.
That, or I just can't pay attention.
We should just assume that people's hair is their hair. Troy is going to be like, it doesn't take an empath to see that this lady doesn't like Data. Picard's like, that's every second person that I signed Data to work with. Or Worf. I mean, they can't all work with you. She's like, well, when have you ever had somebody work with me? That's a question for another time, counselor.
Yeah, I've been on teams where we have a difficult person and no one likes to work with, so we find ourselves like rotating people through. Okay, it's your turn to work with so and so. Don't worry, yep. It won't last forever. So the doctor seems to be finding something. I'm wondering, is she deliberately ignoring Data?
Yes, she's doing the Pulaski thing where she doesn't really think of him as anything of import, and then she's going to try to get him upset by telling him that she blames him directly for the crystalline entity's attack.
Well, if anything,
that is something you can do.
She should be angry at Lore, not Data.
She doesn't really distinguish between the two.
I was really angry at your twin brother Datrick, but I guess you'll have to do.
Could be. Must whatever the problem is must run in the family.
Ensign Reel was at the helm, in case you were wondering. The young ensign.
So let's talk about the Moby Dick connotations of this.
Yes, go ahead.
So this doctor has got this vendetta that she just wants to destroy the crystalline entity, which is completely antithetical to everything that Picard believes in. Now, the crystalline entity does sort of what the Borg does, except it doesn't assimilate things. It just goes to planets and drains them of their energy and then flies away. Which Picard accepts is like that's nature. This is what space is like. There are things out here that do that. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could communicate with them? And the sad thing is, she uses this doctor uses communication as a trap for the crystalline entity. It's like, to use, a whaling metaphor, people that do a whale hunt in an area where whales are protected, and the whale's like, hey, a boat with humans, how nice, I'm going to say hello, and then they kill the whale.
Yeah. Well, I think this episode's really about her hate and manifestation of that hate. So it's not enough that she is a doctor on a mission. She chose this mission because her son was killed.
Yes. Her son that she was neglectful of, and she's trying to make up like that by thinking that like the one thing she can do is kill the thing that killed her son.
Well, in Moby Dick, wasn't it like he bit off his leg or his arm or something like that?
Yeah.
So because of an occupational injury, no.
Man, can you imagine if OSHA had existed at the time of Moby Dick?
Yeah, that would have been interesting. That would be, well, it reminds me of that that film that created the FDA, or not film. There's a book that created the FDA talking about the slaughterhouses in Chicago.
Yes, the Jungle by Sinclair Lewis.
Yes. So they found whatever signature they're looking for, and they're in engineering pushing buttons. Oh, she can type fast.
Well, remember, as far as acting these things, any button she pushes is technically the right button. The sound mixers will ascribe the sounds to it once it's time to ascribe the sounds to it.
It reminds me of there was a Netflix series called Dark something. What was it? Or they did a parody of a Star Trek series.
Oh yeah, Black Mirror.
Black Mirror, that's right. And I remember the characters kind of talking to each other when the main guy creates an order and he's like, "How do I do that?" I'm like, "Just push the button. It doesn't matter which one."
Yeah,
it'll happen.
It's like our explanation of how everything is solved with a box. Take the problem, put it in the box. 20 minutes later, come back, and the solution will come out.
Well, she's found a solution. She's found a solution right there. In this case, the solution is engineering and looking at a monitor. And now they're looking at, something about antiprotons, and technobabble solves this episode. But it doesn't solve the moral side. So with these kinds of episodes, you've got the technobabble that fixes the situation, and then it's all window dressing for the larger drama of this person's angry and they're about to do something really inappropriate to resolve their anger.
I like her prairie wife turned secret agent costume that she has, though. I feel like I've never seen an episode of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, but I assume that like if the medical board shows up on Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, that's what they look like, is this scientist.
That's funny.
Dr. Quinn.
This woman has no emotion on her face whatsoever. It's just that constant resting bitch face. If anything, when I was watching this as a child, I do remember Data and this Dr. Marr being very similar. And watching the series a little further, a couple of years after, I thought, how funny would it be if Dr. Mar was another Sung android, like the one they ran across, where it was like Data's mom or something like that.
Which is funny because this was before the Data's mom episode, and Finola Flanagan, who plays the Data's android mother, is you're right, she is very similar to this Dr. Mar.
Yeah, the mannerisms. Well, Dr. Mar doesn't really have any life left in her. Like her mission of killing it has completely robbed her of all personality or just the thirst for life.
She wants to know that her son forgives her and doesn't bear her any ill will. I love that Picard's like giving Dr. Mar this like pre-spanking on the bridge that Troy and Riker take note of.
Riker was looking a little rough there. I don't know if you noticed. Not sure if it was his back was hurting or if it was just shot out of sequence. Like it almost looks like he had just beamed up from the planet with his hair all kind of messed up.
See, and this is why conversations like this are why when they did kind of the Bible for how this Enterprise worked, that there was a separate science section and a separate commander working in that science section. That this would not be the sort of thing that normally the captain of a ship would bother himself with what they're doing here. She wouldn't be working on the bridge. She'd be working in the science lab. However, we do already know that Picard is fascinated by new life, which is what he sees the crystalline entity as.
Mm-hmm.
And remember that he just accidentally killed that space amoeba, that super space amoeba thing that was pregnant.
Yeah.
So now's his chance to do another big celestial creature, to communicate with it, to not kill it, to not have to write the report on that.
Well, he wants to kind of balance the universe out where I just killed something. Let's turn that around. And this kind of shows, this episode adds a precedent to Picard saying, we don't have to kill this. Is there some way we can sustain this creature in another way?
And the problem is we don't see him evolve to the point where he is at in First Contact, where he's screaming about how we have to draw the line here, this far and not any further. Because at that, Picard would have been in complete agreement with this woman. He just hoped, really what he's hoping is that they can use the science that she's bringing to be able to communicate with the crystalline entity. And it's wishful thinking, sadly. Mm-hmm. And Troy could tell him that. Data could really tell him that. Like, if he was like, if my goal is to just communicate with this creature and keep it alive, should I keep Dr. Mar on the ship? Both Data and Troy would go, no, you shouldn't. You need to get her off right now.
Or just take her off the project.
Well, that doesn't... they try to do that when she starts to kill it, but she's already set it up that it's going to die no matter what.
So in the last encounter with the crystalline entity, I'm a little frustrated because you think that the crew would be a little bit more hesitant about wanting to engage this creature in a friendly way when it was obviously trying to kill them, and that they knew the creature was communicating with lore. So the creature has rational thought, and it made a decision. Yes, I'm going to attack these folks because I need their energy. And to go back to your Borg example, the Borg, we're going to attack these folks because we need them for their energy. It's what's the difference between an individual and a civilization? Like, where do they draw the line between a creature, an animal, and a person who has thought and can make decisions? And
so here's where Data is going to imitate her son.
Oh, it's so creepy.
It is so creepy.
But it was nice that she entered the scene where he was playing the classical guitar there, just to kind of make him seem like he's an emotional being, even though he's not. But he's trying to explore, become a little bit more human, I guess you could say. Oh, there's the real regret. She left her son with friends in order to pursue her career.
Now, as far as what you were saying with the crystalline entity and lore, I haven't watched that episode since we recorded it, but is that something that the crew as a whole would know about, that lore brought the crystalline entity to the Enterprise? Or is that something that just the senior officers are aware of?
That's true. I don't know.
Everybody would know about the Borg attack, but it's when you have all these families and stuff on board to keep track of, how many of them actually know about any of the political stuff that goes on with the ship?
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that we kind of forget about in Star Trek. We just assume everybody knows the same thing when they really don't. To kind of answer that question, I proposed, look at the responses that all captains try to do when they're stuck with a creature or a life form and they don't know its intent. They always try to reach out and communicate. They always try to find an alternative. Mm-hmm. And then they go guns a-blazing if it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And so I think that allows them, that format allows them not to get caught up into, oh, it's just an animal, shoot it, versus, is this something that has sentience? Can it make decisions? Can we negotiate with it? Can we both agree to disagree or agree to agree and move on? The crystalline entity has attacked a ship.
Yep. And there was nothing they could do about it. And it just sickened Dr. Marr to no end.
Another victim. Yeah, there's no trace of anything alive on the ship. Now, that's interesting. You think they would just flag the ship and just tell another starship, hey, local starship in the area, if you could just salvage this and tow it into a starbase somewhere. Data suggested they just leave a skeleton crew right there, and Picard was like, no way, we don't have time for that.
Well, what I almost think is that that would have been the best way to get rid of Dr. Marr, is to
put her on that ship.
Yeah.
Or how cool would it have been if Dr. Marr and Data were on that ship searching for evidence, and Marr hijacks the ship to hunt down the crystalline entity rather than deceive the Enterprise crew all the way through.
That's the thing.
What if Picard called her out early on? It's like, I'm going to take you off this project. I think your intention is not in alignment with our philosophies. We want to try to preserve all life. It's very clear you're trying to kill this creature. And then the doctor says, well, at least can I beam over with Data to collect some evidence on this to continue my own research? Picard says yes. She beams over. She steals the ship and then completes the plot of killing the entity.
Yep. Well, it would have been better for everybody on the Enterprise if she did it that way, because no matter who started the killing sequence, the Enterprise itself and all that were there are still responsible for the death of the crystalline entity. They have to take that into account, that they made decisions that made that possible.
Well, see, there we go.
But this is a weird C or B plot thing where Picard mentions that he wants Riker to write a letter about the woman that he was friends with that died on the colony.
Yeah.
And it bugs Riker a little bit, because he's like, I get this this desire for revenge on this creature, totally.
Mm-hmm. This conversation should have happened within the first 10 minutes of the episode, not in the last last quarter of it. because we know right off the bat, Riker's pissed. He's angry that his girlfriend got killed. The doctor's angry that the son was killed before she could see him. She has some maternal regrets. In fact, I would have liked to see Riker and the doctor kind of plot this plan of vengeance, and then Picard does a course change saying, maybe we shouldn't kill this creature. And then maybe Dr. Marr manipulates Riker, and then she beams on to the ship and goes rogue.
Oh, it's here where Data does the letter.
Yes.
She's working, which is a big mistake because I think genuinely he thought it would calm her down a little bit to do this, because he's very much like, no, your son didn't resent you. He loved you, and now he's gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna inadvertently flip this switch. It's gonna drive you completely crazy. It's been building up, and it's been building up. I love Parisi's squares. We never see what it actually looks like.
Right. I'm sure someone's come up with a recreation of the game.
Definitely. But it's like Calvin Ball. You can turn it into whatever you want to turn it into.
If anything, this just kind of reaffirms to her that she's doing the right thing. That I guess it's kind of like reading an old letter from a girlfriend or something like that you've broken up with. Gosh darn it! I should have done, but it's too late now.
Well, it's harder with a kid than it is with a girlfriend.
True. Well, that's family.
Yeah.
As The Rock would say, it's family.
Yeah. I mean, Vin Diesel.
Mm-hmm.
Deez Vinyl.
Boy, that guy's got a really good job. I mean, those movies just keep coming out and coming out.
Yep.
There we go. Here we go. We're about to have family snuff time. This script actually, between when the script was finished and filming started, was only 7 days.
Wow.
Right? That's not a lot of time.
Yeah,
hey, we're going to film this episode in a week. Read it.
We got some good performances out of both Brent Spiner and this woman who plays Dr. Marr.
Yeah. This would have been a really good episode for analysis with the doctor, what's-his-face, who tried to take Data apart in season 1.
Yeah. Well, she even brings that up to Data, that she's like, that she feels like she has the clout to, if what she believed was real, that it is his fault, that all this is happening with the crystal identity, that she has the power to have him taken apart and destroyed.
In a couple of weeks.
And she doesn't. She's just kind of nuts. She is she's this lone scientist that's working on a project that nobody else really cares about. But when the crystal identity shows up, they kind of send her over there. You wonder what she did to end up in this spot where she's the only person that appears to care about this crystal identity thing.
Well, the worst kind of loss is a mother's loss. Here she's suffering.
Nobody should have to bury their kids.
Yeah. This is... It's... I still struggle with this vendetta she has. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The character is a little too cold.
Mm-hmm.
For it's a cold hate. It's not a raging, burning hate. In television, someone who's really bent on murdering another person, usually you see a lot of focused intent, and she seems a little back burner at times.
Well, but in a cosmic sense, what she's doing is really does not make any kind of sense. It'd be like somebody going okay, so wind, right? the wind. It's a natural phenomenon, but hurricanes, people die, it spreads wildfires. We should make a way for there not to be wind.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what she's doing here. Is she's taking a natural phenomenon and saying, like, no, we need to completely destroy
You have something.
this thing. They are kind of ants compared to whatever the crystalline entity is. And Picard acknowledges that. He's like, but maybe we can communicate. Hopefully we can communicate. But we certainly destroy.
You better run, Snowflake. The fire ants are gonna bite you.
Yeah.
Now here she has a choice. I don't think she's ever seen it in person until now.
No.
Dr. Marty wished to change the frequency.
You know, Dr. Mari, your son is in there. It's probably like the left fractal branch to the second third of the branch there on the top.
No, it's not quite like that. If it was the Borg, yeah, our son would be in there. But this is just he was just food.
Is it responding to us? Let's test that. Ramp the frequency again, Commander.
I'm surprised that Data didn't say, "Oh, well, Lore taught me how to communicate, and here's what you do."
Like he's like, it's a
That's
joke.
That's a secret. That's a secret. Data would probably best keep to himself.
Yeah. Look how excited Picard is. He's got his Spock eyebrow going.
Mm-hmm. Is this where I say the line? This is Captain Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise? I believe so, sir.
It takes some time to decipher the patterns.
And it's possible. Communication. Understanding.
Well, that's what Picard's all about. It's like we need
A continuous graviton.
to convince this person to be nice, to play nice. Oh, here we
When
go.
when Picard says that, it is possible. Communication, understanding. We cut to Worf with Data's guitar singing, "Everything is beautiful in its own way." It's an old Klingon song.
I'm surprised the crystalline entity just doesn't warp away at this moment.
Probably can't. They probably got it trapped.
We must return to the intermittent signal.
Counselor.
Something's very wrong, Captain.
We
You
didn't
should
need
have
the
told him that
counselor.
5 minutes ago, counselor.
Vibrations are increasing.
Dr. Ma, stop
And what if she said it was fine? What if she was a part of
Ma, you hear me?
the Vengeance Vendetta? This is so creepy. She's like totally convinced it's her kid. She's touching him like
Vibration amplitude is increasing.
she's like, she thinks he's inside Data. The way you thought she was in the crystalline entity.
Maybe I can create an override sequence, shut it down from here.
Can't they
That
just
was-
flip the power switch?
That would have been an even scarier button to end this on. I mean, this ends on a really sad note. But if they translated the data and it was her son communicating to her and it's like, this was a communion of the dead inside this inside the crystalline entity. And Mom, I'm so happy to see you again. Or like join us here, Mother.
Boy, that's really generous, putting her in the quarters. She should have been put in the brig. She just killed us.
Exactly.
That's murder.
Mm-hmm.
Please come with me, Doctor.
Of course.
Oh, she is just delusionally happy now.
Yeah.
So I kind of retract my statement earlier about how I was upset that Dr. Marr wasn't more really openly verbal about let's kill this thing, because you have Troy. You have to pass Troy's, you hate the creature. That's okay. You can read that, but I don't want you to read, I'm going to murder this creature. So even until the very end, Troy didn't really know what was up other than something's really wrong.
There has been no predetermined limit placed on my existence, Doctor.
I'm glad.
Oh, now she's asking that, how long are you going to live, Data? I'm glad to hear that. That means my son's going to live forever inside you, more or less.
Yep. But he doesn't.
Yeah. That's kind of like saying, as long as my line of credit stays open, I can pay for the server to have this podcast posted indefinitely. So no matter what happens, I'll still be alive and people will hear my words. And no.
She's really good in this scene. And I like how he's reacting to it. I mean, you would hope that all of these colonists' diaries and memories were put in a museum or some kind of memorial for what happened there. Like imagine, if everybody that died in Pompeii was inside to like one person that was like traveling around.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Data, you could have told her this well before.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, so she steals the ship with Data on it. They have this conversation. She makes the decision to kill the entity. It's vibrating, it's dying, and all that stuff. And then Data uses that moment to say, I don't believe your son would want you to kill this creature based on all his writings. And then he uses that to convince her to not kill the entity. That would have been a happier ending, I guess.
And then they find out that it's saying mother over and over again.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I still give this 4.5 out of 5. It's not the most exciting episode in the world, but it's a great dramatic episode. It's great for Data and great for Picard, and a fantastic guest star.
Yeah, this is definitely where the guest star Ellen Greer takes the show.
Yeah.
It's not every day we have a guest star episode, but this is definitely one of those.
It's not every day we have a non-prosthetic guest star episode. It's not buried under a ton of latex.
I love how the only other guest star episode that comes to mind is when they meet Samuel Clemens.
Yep, who is also buried under a ton of latex.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't even the first time that guy guested on the show.
Was it?
No, he's back in season 1.
Huh,
I can't think of who it was he was playing, but he's in there.
Oh, we'll have to look him up. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, my rating. I'm also going to have to give it a 4 out of 5 crystalline entities. 4 out of 5 victims. There we go. I'm really happy with how this episode went. As I said, I love it when the story kind of gets away from the crew and more into an individual that we never see again. It kind of starts going into true standalone sci-fi. So yes, the story of hate and build-up and decision to kill could have kind of been flushed out a little bit more, but they only really had 40 minutes to figure it out. So they did the best that they could. Well, so for that, we'd like to say thanks for listening. Stay tuned. I believe it's next week we are going to have Disaster.
Oh dear.
I know. So with that, I'd like to say have a wonderful day.
Music provided by LoFiGirl.com. Artists include Tenno, Daydreaming, BVG and Mondberg, Insomnia, WYS, Snowman, Bcalm and Banks, Because. Episode cover art created by Matthew Kirshner. Podcast logo and main cover art provided by David Clawwitter. Audio engineering done by Sascha Schaudies